geometric shading project. For this project, you need a ruler and a pencil at minimum, but I suggest having a Sharpie, some additional measuring tools, and something to make, or more than one thing, to make a perfect circle. This project is all about making geometric shapes. As you saw in the tutorial, you learned how to make cylinders, pyramids, cubes, and cones. And this is where we're going to put all that practice knowledge into a project. So you're going to take your piece of paper and you're going to level it out. And what you're going to do is you're going to create a geometric composition. A composition is the arrangement of the items on the page. So for instance, I'm just going to take these three things. I can set them all up in the middle. I can create a very symmetrically balanced arrangement. I could have it asymmetrically balanced. It really doesn't matter. I just want you to pay attention to what you're doing. Each object should be roughly the size of your hand, if not a little bit smaller. For those of you with larger hands, they can be a little bit smaller, but you want to be able to fit about 5 things on here. So if my objects are about this size of each of these, that's a pretty good way for me to get about 5 when I think about spacing. We're also going to have some overlap in here. Now I'm going to start, if you have a compass, you can use that. I'm just using my Yeti cup, and I'm going to go ahead and set it down here, and I'm going to trace it so that I get a circle. Okay. Then I'm going to use my ruler to go ahead and create a cube or rectangle. Now remember, when you're making a rectangle, you only have 3 lines. They're horizontal. And I'm lining this up with the bottom of my paper to get my perfect verticals. I can erase out any extra. And now I'm going to select an angle. I'm going to go ahead and angle it back in towards the drawing. So I'm going to use my ruler. And now that I've got it this direction, I'm just going to slide it down and slide it up. I like using my littler ones when I get to small things like this. But again, if you're not sure about, the one thing you want to be careful of, if you can see this line, that's going to make it crooked. Okay, we want to make it perfectly symmetrical. So if you need to, use your big one and line it up again against the edge of the paper. That's just a little trick. I'm going to do that over. So notice I have extra. If I tried to go across, again, like this, it would change it to more of a trapezoid. So I'll erase my extra, and then I'll have another one perfectly up and down. And these shapes, this is overlapping, so it's in front, and I want to make sure that the back of this one would be behind it. So now I'm going to do a nice cone. Let's see, I'm going to put one right over here. So first, I'm going to draw a line down the center, and I'm going to kind of cheat because I have this triangle shape. Except that's going to make that a really wide cone, and I don't like that. So I'm going to erase. So this is where you want to use like a number 2 or an HB. So you can erase. You don't want to push real hard. I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to do it on the other side. So here's a trick. This is about 1 2 3/8. So I'm going to come over to this side and do 1 3/8. So I'm not going to draw in front of the sphere. I'm going to go behind it. And then this would come all the way down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to curve this, and my curve would be equally spaced. Okay. So I've got 3 shapes. I've got my cone, my sphere, my cube. Let's see, I'm going to draw another smaller circle kind of up here in the front, seemingly out of nowhere. And again, I'm just using a cup, and I'm going to turn it around to get that tab out of the way. And then I'm gonna put another shape right here and kind of overlap that. So I'm kind of going for the flow of coming up and up from the upper left and kind of coming down, because I want your eye to start up here and kind of move down. Not like it's falling, but I want it to be like a waterfall effect. So I'm kind of curving it. So I'm gonna put another, I'm gonna repeat another shape. I'm gonna come perfectly down from the center, making this cone a little bit more narrow, but this way I can measure it again. Let's see, down here it's 1 inch. So I'm just gonna make a mark right here, which is another 1 inch. Then I wind up with a perfectly symmetrical cone. I'm gonna curve it again. This one's a little narrow. I wouldn't get any smaller than this, just because when we put the patterns on it, you're gonna want room. So I'm gonna put one more, I think I'm gonna put a small cube here so that it's maybe in front here. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. So if I wanna make a perfect cube, I'm gonna say 3 inches. I'm gonna measure it. That kind of takes up a lot of space. I don't want it to take up that much space. So I guess I'm gonna go a little smaller. The one thing I have to be careful with this is that I can't go behind here. So any flooring that I put in this would have to stop before I would get to here, so that I would know it was behind it. So I'm gonna go and add this in. Since I've ensured that it's, you know, behind there, this would be my pretend background line, so I'm still within the clear. So once I've got my shapes in that I like them, I want to make sure to erase anything that's behind it and make sure I have the requirements. You want to make sure to try to keep your paper clear of blemishes. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got at least 6 shapes. I've repeated some. I've got some overlap. So now I can go ahead and move on to step 2, which is where I actually will create the pattern.